honored guest speaker this morning is Estela Hernandez, and she's with United States Senator James Lankford's office. And welcome, Estela Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Once again, I am so grateful. I didn't get a chance to say hello to everyone as I came in, so I just really want to thank you for the opportunity to come on behalf of Senator Lankford. Senator Lankford would prefer to be the one here, and I would prefer for him to be here, and he sends his regards. Of course, he's been traveling all over the state. He covers all 77 counties.
He does.
And in this month, I think he has, we're allowing him to take a little break on this weekend because he's going to be getting back to DC. The Senate session will begin again this November as well. So it's been quite a busy year, to say the least, for the senator. But just to give you a little bit of background on what the Senate office does for you and how the senator serves you. After all, as he said, you are his boss. He works for you. And of course, when he was running, as you know, what was that, back in 2009 when he went into the House, he actually had been Falls Creek director for over 20 years. And he mentions, he and Mrs. Lankford say it was life's greatest interruption because he knew that it was in that time and in that season that he felt led to step up and run. Granted, he had never run for office before. And there were, I want to say, maybe about 9 candidates at that time that were running against him. And no one in the state party or anything knew of him. And so that kind of showed the testament of that determination of saying, I'll be obedient, I feel the calling, and this is the season. And so you fast forward all of these years later, now in the U.S. Senate, and seeing the work that's happening in a very challenging time in our country, more than ever before. We need leaders that understand the importance that it's about you. This is not a political office that is, let me do what's politically expedient. It truly is serving the people, and so that's why it's so important for him to have 5 of me counterparts across the state. So my role as field representative and state coalition field representative is to be able to cover Oklahoma County and Cleveland County because of the size of the population. And then there are 4 others who cover the other 4 quadrants of the state. And they also travel to be able to visit with constituents when he's unable to. Of course, as you know, almost 4 million Oklahomans, he wants to be able to hear what's on your mind and what are your concerns. And so what we do is we visit with individuals and groups to be able to hear you, take Q&As, and also do know that when you have any issues with any federal agency, whether it's IRS, whether any federal office that you can think of, and you need to do an inquiry and say, I've done everything I can and I can't get any assistance or any help, the Senate office will do those inquiries on your behalf. Even passports. You may be traveling overseas and just realized last week that your passport's expired. So what do? So those are the things that the Senate office can assist with, and I want to make sure if there's a way that we can provide my contact information, email, whether it's through social media or whichever way you see fit, we want to make sure that each one of you knows how to reach out to the senator. So we are here to serve. So just a little bit of background on what he's working on. He sits on 4 different committees. One of them is the one that handles pretty much all of the expensing and funding of government, and that's the Finance Committee. The other one is the Homeland Security Committee, and of course we'll touch a little bit on that and the work that he's doing in that committee, which is quite quite a bit as well. The other one is intelligence. And more than ever before this last week, when we learned about here in Oklahoma City, the Afghan man who was involved in plotting against, of course, on a day for election. So he was aware of all of that was happening before it was even let out. So he was working behind the scenes through that committee, very involved and directly in that. The other one, of course, is the ethics committee. But as you know, we are now over $35 trillion in debt. It's unsustainable, and it continues to climb. That is one of the things that for him does keep him up, because he actually looks for ways to be able to not only lower, but also trying to poke his colleagues and saying, we can't continue to fund government the way we've been doing.
Right.
And one of the things, as you know, the appropriations and those 12 bills, they're supposed to go into committee to be able to hear and debate those. They don't. And that truly goes against the way that government was supposed to run. This is not the way it's supposed to be, and it's been like this since the 90s. And so this is one of those areas where he says we have to be able to address our national debt. One of the things that have been in the news quite a bit, and I'm sure that that you followed it, was of course through his committee, the Homeland Security Committee, and of course that is the border bill. For him, it's about addressing the hard issues. As I mentioned earlier, he didn't run for office and to serve and represent you for that next position or for things that are politically expedient. It's to address the issues that he's hearing directly from people. And then in the last few years, we have, and he has been hearing that the biggest thing on people's mind is first inflation, the cost of living, the lack of businesses not being able to find workers, so the worker shortage. That was one of the biggest ones. The second biggest was the border, was the fact that Americans feel that we can't have our borders as unsecure as they have been, to where they are just given our border patrols. And mind you, I like to share with folks that I have two family members that are border patrol, and they share with us directly what they're doing and what they're seeing. And they truly were, if someone came to the port of entry and can say they had credible fear and knew the right words to say, they were given a pass to be able to come back at a later date for their court hearing without having to prove that piece that they deserved or needed to have access into the U.S. For that credible fear to be in the country. And so that's where we saw the skyrocketing numbers of people coming in. But as the senator also mentions, is that we also have the special interest aliens that are coming from countries that are not friendly to the U.S., that are coming from the Middle East, from China, from Russia, from Iran. And those are the biggest concerns for our country. It's a matter of national security. So as he traveled the state and as he heard those concerns, addressing the border was the main thing for him. And it just so happened to be, obviously, an election year. And so there was a lot of misinformation out there. One of the biggest ones was very frustrating for him, was hearing that 5,000 number. Oh, Senator Lankford, you're gonna let 5,000 people in before you even address or close the border? And no, that's ludicrous to think that you're gonna let 5 people in before you even go ahead and shut the border. No, it was, number one, the first person that shows up. They were going to either be deported or they were going to be able to provide that information needed, that they needed asylum. So it's showing proof, and so at that number one, they were either going to be deported or be able to be given those papers for asylum, and they had to prove that. So each person had to show that. But they took that 5,000, we'll address it after we see 5,000. So there was so much more misinformation out there, but as he says, he's gonna stay on these issues. He's not going to back down on tackling the issues that he's hearing from everyone in Oklahoma to be able to address. One of the other things that's very important too, it's not just the border and it's not just the noisy things that you may hear on the news, but when it comes to our healthcare, when it comes to prescription drugs, most recently they just had a committee hearing where he also asked the questions from PBMs, and those are the middlemen within the pharmaceutical industry, which are the pharmacy benefit managers, and really asking the tough questions on what can we do to reduce drug costs, but also be able to provide the American people more transparency. And so he's working on that, and that is going to, as they start this session, you'll be hearing more on that as well. One of the things also that he's working hard on is on the Tax and Jobs Act. That is coming up and it's going to expire in 2025. And so that will be coming up again. And if that is not extended, that will end up with our taxes being increased. So that is something that you're going to hear from, really, quite frankly, here in the next month and going into 2025 to be able to extend those. One of the other things that you're going to be hearing a lot on, as I mentioned, the drug pricing, but also with our veterans, making sure that our veterans have the health care that they need. In Oklahoma, of course, as you know, we have more veterans coming into our state, and the reason being is that we're getting it together here in our state in the health care that's provided to them. Oftentimes there's been negative information about the VA and the health care that they're receiving, but things are truly being turned around, and that we are grateful for the leadership in our state that's helping in that. One of the other items as well that the senator recently sent a letter on is, and actually to the NCAA, and I know there's a lot of talk on this as well, regarding protecting women's sports. And as we mentioned, individuals have the right to make their own decisions on their lives and the choices that they make. That's part of being an American, and we have to be able to allow people to do that. But now it really comes down to women, biological women, who are competing, but you have men that are transitioning in their process of wanting to become women. They also want to be able to compete in women's sports if they've taken all of the drugs required to lower their, all of the chemicals in their bodies to be able to compete. Well, the senator is opposed to that, and he wants to make sure that in protecting our women's sports, that we allow women to compete with other women. Once again, it's not a matter of being dismissive of anyone who wants to make choices about their bodies that they want, if that's what they so choose. But this is about understanding that as Americans and the rules that are currently within the NCAA, women fought to have these rights, to be able to compete in sports at a high level in the NCAA. And all of that work and all of that fight that they did decades ago, now we're saying, yeah, good try. Now we want to be able to have men who want to be like you compete against you. And we know the advantages and the disadvantages in that. So he is working also on that as well. So do know that for the senator, it's about representing all Oklahomans and protecting the rights of all Oklahomans. But we also understand that there are certain things that that he will stand on his values, and also understanding that as we protect everyone, there has to be a way that we can all come to the table and say there are certain things that we have to do that are common sense. That if we want to speak on, look at the science, we should look at the science, and the science shows that no matter how strong or you know, the testosterone and all of those that come through with the science, it's still something that is a hindrance to those biological women who are competing. So, and so with that, I want to be able to open it up to questions, because we want to hear what you're hearing, what concerns you, and of course, and just to mention, I'm on the official side of our office, meaning all of the work that's happening on the policy side, in session with the senator. We have the campaign side that I stay away from. So I know we have a presidential election coming up, but which is incredibly important here in the next few weeks. But I'm happy to take questions in any area that or anything that's on your mind. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's interesting that I received the new bill for my Part D Medicare prescription drug coverage, and the cost went up from $9.90 a month to $44.90 a month. That's a difference of $35, which is the cost of insulin now. And I thought those numbers were interesting.
That is, and that's exactly why he's been having those hearings.
Good.
Because there needs to be transparency, and so those benefit pharmacy managers, that's where he's pressing and saying, we need to let the American people know why and why those numbers are going up. The thing is, they keep climbing, and there's no description or transparency as to why. And when it comes to that, that's the other area that the Senate office can also assist in. If you're having issues on getting through to them, we've been able to help several constituents when it comes to this piece. So please stay in contact with our office, because we want to be able to come back and give you updates on what's happening on that front.
And then the other thing is drugs, prescription drugs coming from China.
Oh, you opened up a can of worms there. That is another piece that he's working, and it's going to have to be something that may have to be addressed legislatively. As you know, his heart for protecting life. There are abortion pills that are being ordered online. That young women or women are receiving, and when they receive them, they realize that if they're having any issues, they don't know who to call, because they don't come addressed from a specific medical provider. They've been tracked, and they're coming from places like India. So here we are, our American women are taking medication to do an abortion that they don't know how it's going to impact them. And then they're concerned that with Oklahoma law, if they go to a medical provider, that they're going to be arrested. And so we tell women that you're not. Please, that fear should not be there. You will not be arrested, because you need to be able to find that care. And so we've been hearing quite a bit. I know that your question wasn't along the lines of the life piece, but when it comes to medication coming from other countries, we're seeing that as a continuous thing that we need to be able to address. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Just to clear, when you were talking about the pharmacy benefit managers being the middleman, are they employees of the insurance companies or of the pharmaceutical companies? Or are they third-party companies getting in between the two?
A little bit of both. And that's the frustrating part, is that the regulating them and the enforcement piece and getting them to provide information is where it has been challenging.
Okay.
And so he is pressing on that. That has to be one of the things that even on that committee that he serves, that he's pressing and making sure he's calling them in. So he's speaking to them directly, and there's going to be more to come on this. So if you don't receive his newsletter, he sends updates on that, and trust me, it's not every week. It's like maybe once a month. So you're not going to get bombarded with
Okay.
emails, but we will provide updates on that, and also the Medicaid Medicare piece on the healthcare side. Yes, sir.
Does Senator Lankford have any thoughts that you could share on Donald Trump's proposal to raise tariffs on imported goods?
You know, Senator Lankford hasn't specifically brought up the tariffs and really President Trump's specific policy areas. The only thing that the senator has mentioned on the election and former President Trump, he does understand that the policies that were in place during his first term have truly helped when it comes to our economy, when it comes to the border, when it comes to certain areas, that it's those policies that will be helpful for us moving forward. And he has mentioned his support as well. So, but on specifically on the tariffs, I've been hearing from and reading different articles from different economists that are opposed to that, but the senator himself is not giving us any word that I can provide. Anything else that we can? Yes, ma'am.
Where would we go to sign up to get his newsletter?
I'm so sorry.
What?
Where would we go to sign up to get his newsletter?
Oh, okay, yes. If you, as a matter of fact, I should have a list to be able to have you write down, but if you go onto his website, or even before I leave today, I can take your email with me and have our communications director put it in. So I would love to be able to do that. I'll have a paper in the back.
I can put, and I'll post the link, I'll go to the website, and
Okay.
I'll post the link
Thank you.
today as well.
Thank you. And put my email on there as well.
I'll
Yeah.
also get you to use
Wonderful.
information.
Thank you. All right. Anyone? Yeah.
You talked about, the veterans, coming here, you know, where Oklahoma's doing things right, better. Can you give a few examples of what we're doing different and better?
Absolutely, thank you for that. Because we've gotten a lot of heat in regards to veterans that are seeking care, and they are not feeling that they are being seen and or the proper care. So through the years, what's happened is the VA has opened more clinics, not only here in Oklahoma City, where there's a new one that's also being put in, but also there's been remodels that's been done to the one there at the OU campus. The other things that they've done within our different quadrants of the state, making sure that veterans are having a place to go and having the clinics and the providers needed to be able to do that. During COVID, it was awful. It was an awful time for our veterans. The other piece too is that our veterans, when they reach out for the services that they need, they're actually able to get someone on the line. And that's another piece that we are hearing as well. So there are different things that at the state level. We also have a new director of Veterans Affairs as well at the state level. That leadership has changed. At the Oklahoma City VA Director Vlasic, he's been there for several years and he sees the issues. So he's been working, quite frankly, strategically in addressing each one. And instead of, in the past, just kind of under the rug, kind of sweep things under the rug, it's, nothing to see here. No, it's when we know there's a problem, let's acknowledge it and let's address it. So leadership change among that as well. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, but a comment. I am one of the growing population in our nation that has a hard time identifying fully with either political party. And I appreciate that Senator Lankford has expressed numerous times his desire to build relationships on both sides of the aisle. He represents my conservative values and my spiritual values. There's no question about that. But his desire is to build coalition, to build agreement, and to find areas where our mutual strengths can be expressed. And I appreciate that. I appreciate him as a man and as a political servant representing me. His border bill I thought was phenomenal, and I was amazed at the level of work that he put into that to build a coalition on both sides of the aisle for agreement for a border policy. Was very disappointed when our political leaders couldn't come to agreement to move forward with that. I just tell you, I don't understand politics at that level. But for him to continue to engage, to attempt to be a true political statesman in a time and a culture that does not value the quality of statesmanship, and to continue to have the strength and the mental aggression to move those things forward. I appreciate him and I applaud him.
Thank you. Thank
What he said.
I agree.
And I will be sure to share your sentiments with him, because those words of encouragement are important for him to hear, because he will continue to stand on that. In the Senate, he needs 60 votes. Unless you have such super majority within your party, you can run whatever you want. But the Senate wasn't structured that way. It was meant for people, for both sides to come together, for the meeting of the minds, to truly say, we may not agree on everything, but we need to come to an area of common ground. So that's what's been incredibly important for him in his leadership, is making sure that he finds that common ground with both sides. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
There's a push right now by a lot of people to do away with the Electoral College. What is the senator's feeling on that?
There is a big push, and it's been like that for several years, the Electoral College. What I remind people is that question of, that was done, what was that, in the late 1700s, where he was asked, are we a republic or are we a
Democracy.
yes.
Yeah, we're
And he
republic.
said, ma'am, we're a republic. If you
Yes.
can keep it. And so we have to remember, what are we trying to keep? What are those foundations that make America so different than any other country in the world? And that if we can't keep that and understand what we're trying to keep, we're gonna lose it. We will do what every other civilization in the past have done. Remember, we're only 248 years old. The oldest civilization was the Byzantine, which lasted over 1,200 years. So what we have to remember, in going to what you mentioned, to your question of the Electoral College, the reason why I'm going a roundabout way to address that is that our founders understood that we needed checks and balances. If we don't have those checks and balances and having those three branches of government well-defined and very well-structured in their own individual lane, and understanding that that Electoral College, the way that it was structured, was meant so that not only one end of the country or only the Northeast was able to determine who the president was. So it was very wise in the way it was structured, including also when it came about with the Electoral College. It's working. And we may not like it. We may not like it when our candidate doesn't win, or doesn't win the popular vote, or doesn't win the, you know, all of those pieces and all those elements. But we have to remember that the structure and how it is has kept us, allowing us, as those leaders are elected, to be able to make a peaceful transfer of power. And when you start to chip away, little by little, to that Constitution, or to the way that we end up with electing our leaders through the Electoral College, or the popular vote, you know, whichever way we want to see it. But the key thing is the Constitution, is not chipping away at that foundation, and not chipping away and allowing those three branches of government to check each other. Because when we don't, if we start chipping away on the way we elect our leaders, then we're going to find ways and opportunities to have the system go our way. And quite frankly, it's respecting those areas. He hasn't mentioned aggressively on one way or the other for the Electoral College, but quite frankly, he has mentioned the importance of keeping our institutions in order and understanding the importance of elevating our Constitution to be able to keep what we have in America. It can go away very quickly. It truly can. And we're still, and remember, this is an experiment. It's still an experiment. We're still very young. And so it's important to know that no matter who it is that we support, will they be able to uphold the Constitution and those that elected them? It's not about me, one person, one party. It's about all of us. It's about all Americans. And as you mentioned, we're not going to agree on everything. And will we make each other's enemies because we don't agree? No. We will lose this country. That's how we lose our country. So thank you so very much for that question. Thank you all so much.
Before you do that, Jesse, I want to take this opportunity to thank Jesse on behalf of the board and all of you for the great job he has done over the past years of bringing us and he will continue to be helpful in this area, although he wants to train a successor. So be thinking if you want to become his pupil.
What'd she say?
And help us out in the coming year.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody here for all the support I've given in the past. But that's in the past. Estela, I want to present you with this certificate of appreciation. It's for being our guest speaker here. It's basically just says Estela Hernandez, field representative for James Lankford, United States Senator, and then it's from Winter Hills Neighborhood Association. I want to present this to you. And also, since James Lankford gave you permission to come with us, I want to present him a certificate of appreciation from us to him. And it has Honorable James Lankford, United States Senator, Oklahoma, Winter Hills Neighborhood Association, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and got my name on it, and Tara as president on here. I'll present both of these to you, and we appreciate you, we appreciate James Lankford.
Yes, we do.
You hear what she said? Should be sure that he will get that.
Absolutely. So thank you all so very much, and continue to gather to make sure that I live not far from here, so I know how important this group is. So thank you so much, and thank you all. Get this to the senator.
Okay.